The big stunner in the NFL yesterday, the Bengals losing as the biggest favorite of the weekend against the New England Patriots. Or is it stunning, considering what Joe Burrow has done in his career in weeks 1 and 2? He is now 1-8 and almost has as many turnovers as he has total touchdowns. But I'm not sure he's lost a game like this in his career in weeks 1 and 2. Our Evan Washburn was on the field for this one. And Evan, look, they've been able to bounce back in years where they've gotten off to bad starts, Joe Burrow in particular. Does this season, do you sense, have any kind of a different feel than the other ones so far?
Chris, it does feel like it's been the script for Cincinnati. What feels different, or I would say what's concerning with this result, was those previous seasons, there's been a reason why at least Joe Burrow and this offense has had a slow start. He's basically not been involved in training camp and all the work that leads up. He had his first healthy training camp. That's been a major storyline for this team over the course of the last 6 weeks. Now we know Jamar Chase was not a part of training camp. T. Higgins was out with the hamstring. So just because Joe Burrow was able to be there every day and get the reps in that he felt like had his game in as great a place as it's been in his career, he didn't have his running mates. And as we know, football is the ultimate team game. So I thought that was on display. But as much as we want to, as always, talk about the quarterback and the offense, the defense for Cincinnati had trouble, especially stopping the run. And that was an issue last year, and it was an issue again yesterday against New England when they churned up over 120 yards, 120 of those coming from Ramondre Stevenson. So, look, it's not time to panic in Cincinnati. I think they got to clean up whatever's going on with Jamar and this organization, whether that's a contract or not, because these things going into now week 2 in Kansas City can't snowball. But I think it's important, Chris, that we flip this on the fly here and talk about what New England did. And for me, as much as it was the players on the field, you couldn't help but just smile and think about what this had to mean to Mayo and that staff that he built. He's replacing the greatest coach of all time. It's as hard a job as you'll find in the NFL right now because of who he's replacing. And let's be real, what that roster looks like. It's in transition. But when Mayo stepped into our meeting room on Saturday night in Cincinnati, he did not exude any concern. He was confident. He had a transparency about what they were going to do, and they did it to the script. They played pretty much clean football, no turnovers. They had more penalties than he would like. They ran the ball, and they played incredibly physical defense. Shout out to his defensive coordinator and DeMarcus Covington for what he did too. I think the story from this game, as much as it probably from a national perspective and what you and I are doing will be about what this means for Cincinnati, give Mayo and that team and those coaches an incredible amount of credit for ignoring the noise, which everybody says they're going to do. They did it, and they put it on display over the course of 4 quarters in Cincinnati.
They were the biggest underdog of the week. They had the lowest win total of any team all season, and Mayo able to go in there and really, they were never even challenged by the Cincinnati Bengals in that game. Jacoby Brissett, not great. It's kind of exactly what you would want from Brissett. Accounted for 150 yards. He was only sacked once, didn't turn the ball over. What did you learn while talking to the staff, while being around the Patriots, about how they're going to attack that quarterback position this year with Drake Maye waiting in the wings?
Look, New England's 1-0, but the story for this team this year is going to be about Drake Maye and the quarterback position. And look, we talked about this over the course of the broadcast, Ian, Charles, and myself, but there was more that we learned over the course of our time meeting with the Patriots about what is a unique situation when it comes to the starter in Jacoby and the backup, if you want to call him that, but the future in Drake Maye, the top 5 pick. So some of the nuts and bolts of it, Chris, are this. Jacoby's the starter. He won the job in the offseason in training camp. Drake Maye's the number 2. But during the week, he gets 30% of the first-team reps. And for those that don't know, a backup in a normal NFL situation, if they get 5 to 10% of the first-team reps, that would be a lot. Those are valued extremely high by the starter. I mean, go back to Tom Brady days. The backup ain't getting any reps. So that tells you how much they're investing in what Drake Maye is getting out of this year, even though at the moment he's not the starter. On top of that, when he's running the scout team, he's not getting a heads up of what he's going to face. So it's not a situation where he's there just to help out the first team defense. They want to use that as live game reps, if you will, for Drake Maye to face what appears to be, after what we saw yesterday in Cincinnati, a top-tier defense in New England. So they're doing their best to give Drake Maye an environment Monday through, or let's call it Wednesday through Friday when they're out on the practice field, that's really going to improve him, while also acknowledging Jacoby's the better guy right now to try and get them wins, and he did that in Cincinnati. And look, I think if you want to play the odds here, Drake Maye will at some point play for the Patriots this season. You hope it's not for injury for Brissett, but this is just kind of the way it goes with these top picks. But if this team's able to bottle up what they did in Cincinnati yesterday and at least spread it over 17 games in some form, we could be looking at a situation where Drake Maye wouldn't play this year, because that formula yesterday, while they're going to need more points, was one that is going to keep you in any ball game.
And next up for the Patriots this Sunday, taking on the Seattle Seahawks in New England's home opener. For more on the Seahawks, we send it over to Amanda.
Christopher Hassel, thank you so much. Here's the thing. Yes, Seattle won the game, but Bo Nix in this game was making his rookie debut as they traveled to Seattle for week 1. The score was close, but Bo Nix went 26 of 42, no passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The Seahawks, though, had new linebackers, new safeties, lots of questions, and their defense absolutely dominated. The lady on the sideline, our very good friend here, Aditi Kinkhabwala, was there. Aditi, let's talk about Seattle, because I want to talk about the defense. Head coach Mike Macdonald deciding to still call plays for the defense there. A lot of times we see these coaches come in who've been coordinators. They think, I'm going to call the play. Sometimes it becomes too much. What did he say about making that decision? Because it seems like it's working out.
Amanda, you are a woman after my own heart, because I had lots of questions about this from Mike Macdonald in our production meeting. How is he going to manage calling the defense, making defensive adjustments, talking to the defense, while also paying attention to the offense, being aware of challenges, driving what should happen on 3rd and 4th down? And he said that he had drilled it during camp. He had done a lot of situational periods in camp just to practice getting in the role of it. And Amanda, there were literally no glitches, no hiccups. I think the biggest thing that really stood out to me is that this first half was very, very choppy. The line didn't do a great job protecting. There were 2 safeties. The Broncos had 2 safeties on the Seahawks early in that first half. And Mike Macdonald comes off at halftime and he says to me, we need to run the ball better. So even though he was so engaged in his defense, the number one adjustment he was thinking about was offense. And then you know what they did? They went in at halftime, they addressed the run game, they came out and they ran so well in the second half. And that's ultimately what led them to victory. He was cool on the sideline. He was very collected. He never looked panicked in any way. He was very clear in the way that he was coaching his players, both offense and defense. And then just as you said, they played a lot of zone yesterday. They did everything they could to make Bo Nix's rookie debut as difficult as possible. But really, it was that Seahawks defense that was so impressive, and that completely is a credit to not only a great defensive mind, but a great defensive mind who was handling head coaching duties for the very first time.
A defensive mind, by the way, who is getting some shoulder rubs from Marshawn Lynch there on the sideline. I love seeing that. I mean, how much fun was it to see him there doing that? A little out of the ordinary, but fun.
I'll just say, you know, I got to talk to Marshawn before the game, but I didn't ask him for a shoulder rub, and he didn't offer one. That might have taken care of that red-eye crick that I suddenly have.
Yes, absolutely.
Marshawn Lynch was there, Cam Chancellor was there, Richard Sherman was there. The Seahawks brought in all sorts of former legends for this opening day game, and definitely everyone was in good spirits. I will say this, Marshawn Lynch was really in a good mood, and I did share with him that one of the things that Jaron Reed had said to me when we had talked during the week before the game about why he felt so strongly for Mike Macdonald was Mike Macdonald's sort of DNA for his team. Mike Macdonald laid out a DNA strand for his entire team. There are about 10 central tenets that he wants his team to always carry with them. Things about playing a style of football that no one else will. Things like that. Well, one of them, Jaron Reed said, and I'm going to have to censor myself, Mike Macdonald put up on the board we don't run around people, we run through the blank blanks. So I said to Mike Macdonald, I heard that one of your central tenets is run through the blank blank. And Mike Macdonald starts laughing and he says, you know, that's a Marshawn Lynch quote, actually. Marshawn Lynch has made our team DNA. And so before the game, I did tell Lynch that. And I said, apparently you're still living on. And he just had a big smile for that one.
And one of the guys, unfortunately, they ran through was Bo Nix. Aditi, we appreciate it. Have fun with your